Alright, so this is the final topic I'm gonna go through. It is on binomial theorem. Okay, we're just gonna be going through this basic question because okay, so that you understand what is the general term formula. Okay, so general term formula for this question here, right? P r plus one is to n r a n minus r. Okay, so to break down this TR is basically your term position. Okay, and then you just add one to the current term. So for example, right, if the value of r equals to 0, right, so 0 plus 1 will be term 1. If r equals to 1, it will be 1 plus 2, and then so on and so forth. Okay, so yeah, it's basically just the value of r plus 1, right? So this whole means position of the term. Okay, next one is the coefficient of the binomial, right? So basically, you know how binomials patterns, right? There's like many different combinations. So basically, we just simplify as n r in the bracket like this. Okay, there's like multiple combinations when you expand. For example, a plus b over n. Right? There's like many different kinds of combinations. Okay, so basically, it just counts how many identical terms, okay, can combine together. This part here is known as your first component, right? It's basically the first term inside the bracket, okay, that is raised to the power of n minus r, okay? N is basically your maximum. And then b over r, this one is your second component. Okay, it's basically the second term inside the bracket. It's also raised to the power of r. Okay, so r is basically the value we're pretty sure. Okay, that's where r comes from. Alright, so first part here, find term independent of n in the binomial expansion, right, of this. Okay, so the very first step, okay, we look at this expression here, right? So we write out our general term, okay? So we can basically map it to our general formula over here, right? So in this case, your a is basically equals to x. This is your a value. Your b is 2 negative 2 over x squared, so this is b, okay? And then your n is 9. Okay, this is how you sub it in. Okay, so for part 1, we plug the variables into the formula over here. Okay, so tr plus 1 will equals to 9 over r, okay, multiplied by x power 9 minus r, and then the fraction negative 2 over x squared power r. Okay, next we group all the x terms together, right? So it will be 9 r x 9 minus r. Then we can split this whole thing here, right, into x minus 2r multiplied by minus 2 power r. Okay, and then you multiply the exponents, right? So you get 9 over r minus 2 power r, then x 9 minus r, and um, x negative 2r. So multiply, right? So when you multiply terms in the same base, you just add the top part, the exponents. So 9 over r, just get indices of okay. So 9r, then minus 2 power r, then x power 9 minus 3r. Okay, so we can now solve for r, right? So what a term independent of x basically means is just a constant number. So in this case, right, we can just say that um the constant number is equals to 0. Because anything power 0 equals to 1. So we can just set this exponent as 0. So therefore 9 minus 3r equals to 0. 3r equals to 9 and therefore r equals to 3. Okay? So now that we know that the value of r is equals to 3, we can now calculate the final term. So basically the term is now 9, 3 multiplied by negative 2 cubed, and we get 84 multiplied by negative 8, and therefore we should get negative 672. So the term independent of x is negative 672. Right? Moving on, finding the value of k. Right, so now we're going to look at this expansion over here. Right, so we need to understand what is the logic of multiplication. Right, so we're just trying to get a constant term out of this entire expression. We look for combinations, right, to cancel all the x. Okay, so you already know, right, the constant term, right, r, okay, sorry, not the constant term. The constant term is, no, it's not, oh, sorry. Constant term is negative 672, right? So now, right, basically, you need to find what is this equation here. What is this equation here? Equals to negative 6, right? Because we're trying to find, um, in this case, right, to solve this, right, got two ways, okay? One is if we um used one is if you multiply 1 in the first bracket to get the multiply the constant term on the second bracket, right? So basically we're going to find the necessary terms now, right? So from part 2 gonna find what is the x power negative 6 term, right? So we use our simplified general term from part 1, okay, to get this answer. Okay, so 9 minus 3r equals to negative 6, so 3r equals to 15, r equals to 5. Okay, so now we plug this number 5, right, into our coefficient formula. So our coefficient formula is here, right, the same formula here. Okay, so coefficient is 9, 5 multiplied by negative 2.5, so we should get negative 4032. Okay, so therefore the term is for negative 4032 x power negative 6. Okay, so now we set up this equation. Okay, so because we see the question say got no constant term, so we just add the two combinations together. So negative 672 multiplied by kx6 times 4032x negative 6 equal to 0. So we simplify on this. Okay, so now we can solve for k, because in this case, right, I can cancel out the x6 can cancel. Okay, so that's how you can get this, right? So we solve for k, negative 403k, solve 4032k is 672. So in this case, k is negative 1 over 6. Okay, right. So yeah, I hope that you understand this basic formula, right? And yeah, that's about it. Thank you.